I was in the Cotswolds recently and I thought I'd drop in on the classic Motorhub. I follow them on Instagram and they hold a lot of events and they basically deal in classic car sales and storage. As well as doing that, they have a great coffee shop which also doubles up as a gift shop and is well worth a visit. They basically have two storage huts with some very interesting cars, so let's take a look. This is a 1934 Maserati 4CS. All pre-war Maseratis are special, but there's two things of note with this car. Firstly, it is the ex-Hans Reusch car. He raced for both Alfa and Maserati in the 1930s. And secondly, it also has the glorious 6cm engine, fitted by the works whilst in Reusch's ownership in 1936. It has loads of race history in Italy from day one, and it's been fettled in recent history by Maserati guru Sean Danaher. Of course, it's eligible for so much, including the Mille Miglia. What a fabulous thing. And this is the wonderful Fraser Nash Shelsley. Fraser Nash only ever made 8 of these cars, and this is one of them. The famous journalist Dennis Jenkinson described it as the Nash to end all Nashes. And this particular one was owned by A.F.P. Fane, who was a racing driver in the 30s and then also went on to buy shares in the company. Now to the post-war period. This is an Oscar, a wonderful looking thing. Oscar was the company created by the Maserati brothers after they sold their original company to the Orsi family. This is a 1956 car with a 1.5 litre engine. I remember Sterling Moss having an Oscar which he used to run after he'd retired in historic meetings, and he said it was one of the best cars he ever had. So this will set you back £475,000. A lovely Alfa Giulietta SVZ 1957. It's race prepped with a fresh 1300cc engine. They're claiming 129 bhp, which is not bad for a 1300. It's got the iconic double bubble roof on it and has FIA papers. It's raced at all the big events, Silverstone Classic and the Goodwood members meeting. It's sadly been sold, but the new owner, I'm sure, will be out in that very soon. What a wonderful thing. A run-of-the-mill Austin Healey 3000? Well, it's not quite, as this is 699DON. This was actually the factory press car and was road tested by Autocar and the Motor magazine in period. That's on the market for 115,000, so I guess slightly more because of that illustrious history. And what about the wonderful colour of this Aston Martin DB4? Wedgwood blue, so eye-catching. In 1964, it was once owned by Peter Brewer, who used it to tow his ERA R4A, which he was racing at the time. I mean, how fantastic to see that on the road going to a race meeting. Aston Martin DB4 towing an ERA. Back to the pre-war era with this 1926 Bentley 3 litre. It still has its original engine and Vandenpla 4-seater coachwork, which is actually quite a bit of a rarity these days. It was on the stand at the 1926 London Motor Show, and it was first owned by Tom Moore, who went on to own the Motorsport magazine. Sunlight reflecting off the bonnet there, which I apologise for, not very good camera work, but it is a red label Bentley, and very desirable, that is. Now going back to the golden age of motoring with this Edwardian aero engine monster, a 1913 Theophile Schneider with a 10-litre Hall Scott aero engine. This was built by David Baker of the VSEC, and I remember racing against him. I was in an Alvis years ago at Mallory Park, and I remember it drifting beautifully on those narrow tyres all the way around that long Gerard sweeping curve at Mallory. Lovely collection of VSEC scrutineering tags there, all add to the feel of this machine. This lovely Lagonda is a 3-litre Type 2 Tourer. It competed on the 1933 Monte Carlo Rally, and it was described as having a terrible mix-up with a laundry van in France, which prevented it from completing the rally. But it's been in single ownership since 1964, and it retains its beautiful 4-seater bodywork. Back to another Bentley, and this is an example of that tried and tested combination of the nimble 3-litre chassis with the potent 8-litre engine. And doesn't that engine look glorious? It's WO's masterpiece. Created in the 1990s by Neil Davis Racing for Peter Gooch, who used it to tow his Maserati 250F behind it. I don't know which is more impressive, an Aston Martin DB4 towing an ERA or a Bentley towing a Maserati 250F. And it has this low slung back end, which gives it quite a sort of speedy appeal. Obligatory Union Jack flag on the side. Staying with the Bentley theme, how about this? Bentley Speed 8 by Racing Green Engineering. And wow, just look at that engine. 8 cylinders and just over 5.5 litres. It was built on a 1947 Mark VI chassis. This really does justify Ettore Bugatti's rather derisory comment about Bentley's building the world's fastest lorries. The scale of it is quite imposing, and to be honest, owning a car like this probably poses a few practical issues, such as the size of your garage. But it can all be yours for $350,000. Now over to the second storage unit. And I felt this was something really special. The Maserati A6 GCS Monofaro. Forgive me for my poor Italian pronunciation. I've already been pulled up once for that before, but basically it means single headlight. It was the last Maserati built by the Maserati brothers before they formed the Oscar firm, which we talked about earlier. It's a 1947 car. It's an original gearbox and engine, but replica body and chassis. But its claim to fame is that the gearbox and engine came out of Fangio's race car. It raced predominantly in Formula 2, and it is a tiny little thing sitting low on its Barani wheels. And even without the Fangio connection, it's an important car, as it's really the last true Maserati made. How you put a price on that, I'm not quite sure. Now for something completely different, a 1962 Chevrolet Corvette C1. Kitted out for racing, it has FIA papers, and of course it's eligible for some of those mouth-watering pre-63 GT grids. It's a 5.4 litre engine, and I bet it's bulletproof in comparison to the Ferraris and Porsches it's often up against. The iconic Fraser Nash BMW. These cars were so advanced for their time. Even the body shape was far more modern than their contemporaries. And of course, the 2-litre engine is the basis of the Bristol engine, which went on to power so many cars, including the Cooper Bristols of the 1950s. In 1934, there was an agreement between Fraser Nash and BMW that Fraser Nash could not only sell the BMW cars, but they could sell them under their own brand name, which was Fraser Nash BMW. This is a wonderful car, a 1933 Alvis Speed 20. It's wearing its original Van den Plag bodywork and proudly displaying its motor club badges and rally badges on the front. It was actually a class winner in the 1934 RAC rally. One of the great things about these pre-war Alvises are their all synchromesh gearboxes. They were so advanced for their time. It could all be yours for $95,000. Now, you don't see many of these early Astons for sale. The early AM badge there representing the founder's surname, Lionel Martin, and the A for Aston, which came from the Aston Hill Climb venue. This is a 1924 long chassis Tourer, and it's had one owner since 1961. It may be a long chassis, but there's only room for three, and the third passenger is squeezed into this rather cosy rear seat. Parked outside, waiting for a potential buyer to come and view it, was this striking 1971 Jaguar E-Type Series 3. It's a restomod, so it's been updated with various modern bits and bobs. The V12 has been brought out to 6.2 litres and it has a 5-speed gearbox. Electric fans have been fitted. It's got a sports exhaust. The front bumpers and grille have been modified. And if you notice on the body, there's no badging and it's just finished in this beautiful olive green colour. Okay, you won't be getting invited to race it at Goodwood, but that is still an impressive motor car. Well, I hope you enjoyed my quick tour of the classic Motorhub, and I do recommend that you drop in if you're in the area and grab a coffee and have a browse in the gift shop as well. There's all the automobillia, which is well worth a look at.